All right, let's talk about something that we all know and, let's be honest, we all hate: failure. But what if that gut punch feeling we try so hard to avoid is actually the secret ingredient to our biggest successes? That's what we're diving into today: the failure paradox.
And it really, really does, doesn't it? I mean, you know that feeling. It's that hot, creeping sensation in your chest when a project just completely bombs. And there's a good reason for that. Our brains are literally hardwired to feel this way. They process social rejection and failure on the exact same neural pathways as physical pain. So yeah, we're built to avoid it.
And that's where we get to the heart of the paradox. On one hand, you've got our most basic survival instinct screaming, avoid this feeling, run away. But on the other hand, there's this undeniable truth. The very thing we're programmed to flee from is the essential fuel for our most profound breakthroughs. If you're not failing, you're probably not growing. So how in the world do we reconcile that? How do we get over our fear and actually use this? Well, it all starts by understanding the science behind failing the right way. Look, you've heard the Silicon Valley mantra a million times, right? Fail fast, fail often. But it turns out the science says it's a bit more complicated than that. It's not about racking up failures like some kind of weird participation trophy. It's about failing smart. And this isn't just a nice idea. There's some incredible evidence to back it up. A huge study published in the journal Nature looked at 46 years of data from NIH grant applications. That is a mountain of information. And deep inside it, researchers from Northwestern University found a clear, predictable pattern, a signal, really, that separated those who would eventually succeed from those who would just stay stuck. And here's what they found. It all came down to what people did after they failed. The losing approach was pretty simple: fail, dust yourself off, and just try again. But the winning approach, that was totally different. It was fail, and then stop. Surgically analyze what went wrong. Make a specific, intentional change, a pivot, and then try again. The lead researcher on that study, Dashan Wang, he absolutely nailed it. It's not about blaming bad luck or saying, oh well, the universe was against me. The successful people owned it. They got out the scalpel, dissected the failure, and really zeroed in on the parts that didn't work. And get this isn't just a change in mindset, it's biological. When you fail and then analyze that failure, you are literally physically rewiring your brain. It's a process called synaptic pruning. Your brain actually cuts away the weak neural pathways that led to the mistake, forcing it to build a new, stronger, better route. In fact, neuroscientists have this amazing name for it: error-related negativity, or ERN. The second you realize you've made a mistake, this signal fires in your brain. And what it does is kick your brain into a state of hyperplasticity. It's like your brain shouts, whoa, hold on, that was wrong, everybody pay attention, let's learn this right now so we never do it again. You know, success can make us comfortable, even lazy. Failure forces us to learn. Okay, so that's the science. Pretty cool, right? But let's see how this idea of productive failure actually plays out in the real world, because you see it pop up again and again all throughout history. All right, take a look at this number: 5,126. Any idea what that might represent? That is the number of prototypes James Dyson created that failed before he finally nailed his famous vacuum cleaner. Can you imagine? But here's the key. To him, those weren't 5,126 failures. He called them mini-discoveries. Each one taught him exactly what not to do next. And there's actually a fantastic term for this in psychology from a researcher named Manu Kapoor. He calls it productive failure. His work shows that when you really struggle with a problem you can't solve, you're not wasting your time. You're actually priming your brain, building the mental scaffolding so that when you finally see the solution, you get it on a much, much deeper level. So speaking of inventors, here's a little quiz for you. What do you think was Thomas Edison's greatest failure? And I'll give you a hint. It probably has nothing to do with a light bulb. Edison once poured his entire fortune, everything he had, into a brand new ore milling business. And it was a complete and utter disaster, a spectacular financial failure. He lost it all. But, and this is the whole point, the technology he invented for that failed business, the massive rollers, the screening systems, that tech became the foundation for the entire modern Portland cement industry. He literally built a new empire from the ashes of his biggest defeat. It just goes to show what the psychologist Angela Duckworth, who's famous for her work on grit, talks about: At the end of the day, the real difference maker isn't just raw talent. It's the ability to keep that interest, that practice, that sense of purpose and hope alive, especially when you're going through failure. Now, this idea, it's not just locked away in a science lab or a history book. If we zoom out a bit, we find that this same paradox has incredibly deep roots in philosophy and spirituality. In so many ancient traditions, this concept of failing upward isn't some new age life hack. It's right at the core of the story. It's fundamentally about how human beings transform. I mean, think about a figure like the Apostle Peter from the Christian tradition. If failure were an Olympic sport, this guy would have a gold medal. He tries to walk on water and sinks. He passionately promises he'd die for his leader, Jesus, and then a few hours later, he denies he even knows the guy, not once, but 3 times. And yet what happens right after this incredibly humiliating, soul-crushing failure? The story goes that he's given this huge position of leadership. Why? Well, the idea is that the failure absolutely destroyed his ego. It shattered his self-reliance and replaced it with something the texts call a kind of desperate, gritty grace. There's even a formal name for this concept, the theology of the cross. It's this profound idea that real strength, real power, it isn't found in our highlight reel. It's not in our proudest moments. It's made perfect in our weakness, in our struggle, in our failures. Okay, so we've covered the science, we've walked through history, we've even touched on the soul of the struggle. Let's bring it all home. How do we actually do this? How can we learn to fail well in our own lives? I think it boils down to 3 really practical steps. Number 1, analyze the why. Don't just jump back on the horse. Take a second and figure out why it threw you. Number 2, and this is so important, detach your worth. You failed at a task, that doesn't mean you are a failure. There's a huge difference. And finally, number 3, find the grace in the gaps. Try to see these setbacks not as the end of the world, but as a kind of pruning, clearing away the dead branches so something new and stronger can grow. So here's the thing to remember. We don't win in spite of our failures. We win because of them. The scar tissue is what makes us stronger. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. What failure in your life right now, the one that stings the most, what if it isn't a setback at all? What if it's your next masterclass?